Well, hello everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the Office of Public Instruction School Nutrition Programs Webinar Wednesday. I'd like to thank Camille and the rest of the OPI team for hosting this webinar. Today's topic is the Montana Farm to School Successes, Buying and Serving Local Foods. This is the first webinar in a three-part series that highlights farm to school successes from around our state. The next two webinars will be held on March 4th and April 8th, so I hope you will join us for those as well. I'm Aubrey Roth, and I'll be leading the webinar today. I'm the Montana Farm to School Coordinator for Montana Team Nutrition Program. Montana Team Nutrition works in close collaboration with Office of Public Instruction's school nutrition programs to provide training and guidance to schools, and we're housed at Montana State University. I'm excited to be joined by Ginger Buchanan, Edward Christensen, and Dave Prather. These inspiring individuals will share their farm to school stories and perspectives. This webinar provides snapshots of Montana farm to school successes to provide you inspiration and resources to start or grow your farm to school program. During this webinar, I will discuss the farm to school basics. Ginger, Edward, and Dave will share their successes and challenges buying and serving local foods. And we'll wrap up by discussing resources, opportunities, and then of course answer your questions. So let's get started. So farm to school is an umbrella term for a movement to connect children to their food, to improve their health, support farmers, ranchers, and food businesses, and strengthen communities through the three core elements shown here. Procurement. Local foods are purchased, promoted, and served in the cafeteria or as a snack or taste test. Education. Students participate in education activities related to agriculture, food, health, or nutrition, and school gardens. Students engage in hands-on learning through gardening. Farm to school programs generally work best when each of the three core elements are represented. As you will see throughout the webinar, there are many ways to implement farm to school. Farm to school is not a program you sign up to do. You can build it to meet your school's interests and resources. So let's take a look at each of these core elements. First, procurement, which includes buying and serving local foods in school and after school meals and snacks, and is the focus of this webinar. Schools are sourcing local foods across all 5 food groups, from apples to beef and beyond. This includes buying from local farmers and ranchers, receiving donations, and using food grown in school gardens. Growing and raising food with students is a great way to engage them in the process and get them excited about unfamiliar foods. School gardens vary in size, type, and purpose. Gardens could be in-ground gardens or raised beds for educational purposes, like these in Missoula. Located on the High Line, Hinsdale School boasts an incredible school garden with a passive solar greenhouse and root cellar, both of which students help build. The cafeteria uses the garden produce in the school meals. Your garden could even be unconventional, like Gallatin Valley Farm to School's Bob the Greenhouse bus that provides mobile school garden education throughout the Gallatin Valley. Other schools have greenhouses, grow towers, aquaponics systems, and many others. Definitely the broadest of the 3 core elements, the education piece spans food, nutrition, and agriculture-based education. Farm to school education can take place anywhere. Here, Gallatin Valley Farm to School provides in-classroom lessons at a Bozeman Elementary School. The GROW program at Ennis School has been cooking up Harvest of the Month storm. Recently, the students made heart-shaped beet ravioli. This education piece can also include farm field trips, bringing producers into the classroom, and more. Farm to school is well rooted in Montana. 57.1% of Montana schools are participating in at least one of the 3 core elements. This includes over 48% serving local foods in their school meals, 22% are conducting nutrition, ag, and food-based education, and 19% are creating and tending school gardens. There are many benefits to farm to school programs, as you'll see throughout this presentation, and for the sake of time, I'll encourage you to read the farm to school benefits fact sheet, which the link is shown on the bottom of this slide, to better understand the benefits of these programs. I'm going to give you a quick primer on resources and regulations regarding buying and serving local foods. Just like any food or supplies you're buying with your cash reimbursement, you need to follow proper procurement procedures for buying local foods. I'm not going to cover those in this webinar as there are other trainings specific to procurement. I am going to go through each of the regulations specific to the products shown here as a lightning quiz. So for each question, answer the question to yourself and see if you can get the correct answer. It'll go fast, so get ready. So for the first question, meat that is processed in Montana and sold to a school or SFA in Montana must be A, state inspected, B, federally inspected, or C, either. The correct answer is C, so congratulations if you got that. Montana schools can use either state or federally slaughtered and processed meat. So next question, eggs must be A, grade B or higher, B, certified free range, or C, there are no licensing or requirements for eggs. Excellent job if you answered A. Eggs must be graded B or higher from a licensed facility. For dairy, milk must be A, certified organic, B, pasteurized in a licensed facility, or C, there are no licensing or requirements. And of course, B is our answer here, so congratulations if you got that right. Milk must be pasteurized in a licensed facility. To sell raw, unprocessed vegetables or fruit to a school, a farmer must have the following. A, GAP certification, which is Good Agricultural Practices. B, fruit and vegetable license. Or C, it depends. The answer is C. Depending on what crops they grow and their farm size, some producers may need to follow certain regulations within the Food Safety Modernization Act, or FSMA, FSMA. It's really up to the producer to contact Montana Department of Agriculture to see if they are exempt or not. The Department of Ag will also help them with best practices and other information regarding regulations and food safety. So if you're a school nutrition professional, you do not need to know which farms need to follow which FSMA regulations. However, school nutrition professionals should contact their county sanitarian for guidance about recommended or required testing like soil or water testing. And here is our last question. To sell processed products, including baked goods, jams, squash puree, or other things to a school, a Montana business must have A, a wholesale food establishment license, B, GAP certification, or C, liability insurance with $10 million in coverage. And the answer, so if you processed this question correctly, you chose A. The Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services oversees licenses for Montana food manufacturers. A general rule of thumb is to talk to your county sanitarian, also known as your health inspector, before using school garden produce or buying locally. You can ask for a producer's on-farm food safety plan, or if they do have it, then if they're GAP certified or not. Keep records just as you would with any purchase so that there's traceability in case of an issue. So I know that was really quick, but there are plenty of resources to help you. The Montana Farm to Cafeteria Guide, which is shown here on the right, goes through regulations and recommendations for buying local foods. The USDA Local Procurement Guide will help demystify the procurement process, which applies to all purchases, not just local ones. And then the Montana Beef to School procurement templates will help you easily navigate the procurement process when seeking local beef. There are many ways of finding local food, but I've listed a few suggestions on this slide. Farmers markets, when they're in season and when they're out of season, their market managers are a great way to find out who is producing in your area. You're not likely going to buy at the farmer's market, but you can find out who is in the area and what they're selling. We recommend you use the Farm to Cafeteria producer database and hope that you will ask any of the producers you're currently working with to add themselves to this map so more schools can find them and it becomes an even more helpful resource. Look for local products in your current distribution channels, including DoD Fresh. This fall, there were delicious Montana apples on the DoD Fresh catalog. Most importantly, talk to people in your area to see what is available. Talk to other school staff, talk to restaurants, friends, etc. Use the lunch line listserv if you happen to be on that to find out what has worked for other schools. The Montana Beef to School Coalition has a number of great resources from the research we have done around the state, including our case study report that features 6 Montana school districts and processors or ranchers. As I mentioned earlier, we also have beef to school procurement templates that will help you through the process of buying local beef. We also have a frequently asked questions page that will get you on your way to serving local beef. The Whole Kids Foundation Garden to Cafeteria Toolkit is very helpful if you're wanting to serve garden produce and school meals. It helps you with those food safety components and the processes. And once you're serving local foods, be sure that it is clear on your menus and in your cafeteria. One way that you can promote your efforts is with the Montana Harvest of the Month posters and materials. Montana Harvest of the Month is one way you can implement Farm to School, as it provides an easy to follow framework and ready to use materials, as well as helpful guides and resources. The Montana Harvest of the Month program features a different Montana grown or raised food each month. Shown here is our calendar for this school year. We strive to add new foods each year and change the calendar to keep it fresh. The program is open to K-12 schools and after-school programs, summer food service programs, early care and education sites, healthcare facilities, grocery stores, and food pantries. It is free to register, and participating sites will form a team upon registering, showcase the Harvest of the Month food in that month in a school meal or snack, an educational activity, and a taste test. Sites will promote the program using the materials provided. And lastly, the sites will participate in evaluation. Just as a note, that sites source their own local foods for the meals, taste tests, and educational activities. Participating sites receive a set of printed materials and access to electronic resources, including the posters, and there's an example shown here. We have 3 handouts: cafeteria, classroom, and home, for each Harvest of the Month food. That includes fun facts, cooking tips, nutrition information, when relevant gardening information, and agricultural facts. The Cafeteria Bites handout also includes school food service recipes that have the crediting information. We also have a slew of other materials like menu templates, recipe cards, guides, and so much more. Included in this list are short Farm to Plate videos for each Harvest of the Month food. We've released 6 videos so far, and more are on the way. And they are available publicly, even for those who are not part of Harvest of the Month currently. New sites can register for free on the Harvest of the Month website, shown here, at any time during the school year. So now that you have a good foundation of what Farm to School is and the resources that you can use, let's explore 3 people who are making Farm to School happen in their communities. So I'd now like to welcome Ginger Buchanan, who's the Food Service Director for Huntley Project Schools and one of the new Montana Farm to School coaches. Take it away, Ginger.
Hey everybody, like Aubrey said, my name's Ginger Buchanan. I'm one of the new Farm to School coaches, and I'm over the southeastern region. I'm also on my 2nd year as Huntley Project's Food Service Director. I absolutely love my job because I'm able to make our food from scratch. One thing that really helped me in the beginning is my administration sent me to Montana Team Nutrition's Cook Fresh Institute in Bozeman. There I learned the ins and outs of school nutrition and techniques for cooking in large volumes. We were encouraged to cook from scratch instead of out of the box and heat and serve. One of the things that has been a huge hit here at Huntley Project is our infused water that we put out every day. Infused water was available to us during the Cook Fresh class. That's where I got the idea from, and I was able to implement these ideas here at Huntley Project School. The kids really appreciate all the little details because they know we really do care for them. I'm also part of Harvest of the Month. With Harvest of the Month, we support it supports Farm to School. It's a great kickstart for Farm to School because it acts as a guide. I use the menu templates, and at the beginning of each month, we take that item into the classrooms to give samples and educate the kids on how it's grown, what it does for your body, and what it looks like, and they get to taste it. When we did kale in September, I made ranch kale chips, and the fourth grade class, we went to love them and wanted more. So it's been a huge success. We are also a part of the Fresh Fruit and Vegetable Program. We just started that last month. It's also been a great success with the little kids because we teach them about healthy fruits and vegetables, and we make it fun by adding a craft at the end. They eat it, not the craft, just the food we take in. I really try hard and source as much as I can locally. I don't like to just shop Cisco and US Foods. I have proven numbers that shows by sourcing locally, we have been able to cut our cost. I buy our beef local, our milk local, our bread and flour local, and a lot of our lettuce we actually buy local. Another way I've been able to save money is by using DoD Fresh for fresh fruits and fresh vegetables. By using DoD Fresh, I'm able to save money to use elsewhere in the kitchen. With the milk, this is a pretty exciting one. I was able to totally get rid of carton milk and transition over to milk machines. By doing that, I was able to save over $8,500 a year, and the students can drink more, and it tastes better than out of a carton. They taste the cardboard. I found the milk dispensers in the surplus inventory at MSU and Bozeman, and they donated them to us. We use our greenhouse here at the school to raise fresh cucumbers, tomatoes, herbs, and radishes. Some great resources and some things I recommend looking into to get started serving local. Contact your regional farm to school coach. One is me, the other is Faith Oakland, and of course you can also contact Aubrey. We can help you with locating local sources. Some other great resources I use is Montana Lunchline. That's an email network for food service directors all over the state where you can get advice and ask questions. The Facebook page, School Meals That Rock, I've gotten some really good ideas from there. One of those is our chicken wing bar, but it's from school lunchrooms all around the country. The Cook Fresh Institute, which I mentioned earlier, that's a wonderful place to get ideas from. The Montana School Nutrition Association conference in June, and of course, Webinar Wednesday. So that's all I've got. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Ginger. If you have any questions for Ginger or for any of our presenters throughout the presentation, please type them into the chat box as they come to you. So next up we have, if it'll let me advance, we have Edward Christensen, the Kale Chip King, to talk about a different aspect of Farm to School, Beef to School at Missoula County Public Schools. Welcome, Ed.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I appreciate you having me here. As you know, my name is Edward Christensen. My title is Assistant Supervisor of Food and Nutrition Services for Missoula County Public Schools, and this is my 17th year in this position. As Farm to School is kind of a very, very big topic, our district has been active in Farm to School in some capacity since about 2006, I believe, and we've been evolving all over since then into new capacities. And this year was the very first year that something really, really cool happened. Is one of our high schools has an ag center, and a couple of years ago we put out a levy for reconstruction in our district. We have 18 buildings in our district, and we serve about 6,000 meals a day, district-wide out of a satellite operation, meaning that my office is in the central kitchen. We prepare most of the food here. We store most of our supplies here, and then I have 3 transport vehicles that take meals out to 12 K-8s, and then 3 high schools are kind of standalone. But the ag program raises a bunch of animals, and as part of this levy, they wanted to build a meat processing facility. So Tom Andrews is not here today, He's the guy behind that. A couple of years ago, came and said, "Hey, do you guys buy beef?" And I said, "Yeah, we buy beef." But in our model, buying it conventionally locally it was cost prohibitive. So we were always kind of at odds with that. And another challenge that we had is that in my facility, we only have rotating ovens and steam jacketed kettles. So my building isn't really licensed with the Missoula County Health Department to be processing raw beef in any quantity. And for any like production that we would do involving beef, it's usually about 400 pounds per production. So we would have to, something would have to change. So after he came over and talked about buying beef and talked a little bit about potentially, investing in a processing facility in district where actual MCPS high school students are going to be involved in the raising of these animals and in, the very humane, essentially putting them down and processing them and all that. It's a super great story, really cool facility. It's like, man, this is a dream come true. So my boss and I started thinking about, well, if we could buy raw beef from ourselves, essentially, literally 2 miles down the road, how are we going to cook it? And we came up with a solution of remodeling one of the kitchens. The whole district's doing a whole bunch of remodels, and what if we put in a tilt skillet and a walk-in cooler so that we could essentially process the beef in district at kind of another satellite location. So we did that. That got approved and went in. And last summer, I made my first purchase of ground beef, which is about 500 pounds. And we took it over to a satellite operation and processed it in this tilt skillet and put out our first in-house schoolhouse meats lunch, which was a walking taco. And it was really cool. Right now, I'm sitting on about another 1,200 pounds in my freezer. We're getting ready to process that next Monday, and get it into lunch. Now, we'll never be able to have just local beef in any of our lunches, but when we combine it with USDA commodity ground beef or beef crumbles, we can at least, apply a locally sourced item in nearly almost all of our beef productions, which is really, really cool. Other farm to school stuff that we've had, since 2006, we kind of started the whole process of farm to school with the idea that maybe we could do like a Montana meal day. And while I think that's really cool, it didn't seem really sustainable just to have one day where you feature local stuff. So my philosophy with farm to school is always finding the items that you can buy in bulk and then use them while they're available. Like apples is a really, really great opportunity for us. And it was super cool that Pam Frew got those on the DOD list. One thing I would love is to find some way, some politician, some activist somewhere plant the idea that possibly instead of having all of this entitlement, maybe we could apply entitlement towards more local food so they can cash in lieu. I know it's a pipe dream, but I think it's a conversation worth having with anyone involved. And I can't imagine anyone on whatever political side of the aisle you lean wouldn't support using those federal dollars in our local communities. I think it'd be super, super cool. But that's pretty much, the greatest new thing that we have coming out of Missoula, Montana, and we're excited to explore more local beef in more ways, and possibly other meats as well. I know they sell retail out here. They're USDA inspected and state inspected, and the place is spotless. It's really, really cool. It's like I never imagined that farm to school would be really turned into a school farm, essentially, where you literally have a farm with animals in your school district. And these animals that are raised, one cool thing, if you think about how green everything is, some of these animals will never ever experience a truck. They live on site, and so everything that they know and live and smell is their whole life there, and they're treated super great, and it's just really cool. It's so easy on the environment, and you can't get more local than beef 2 miles down your road. If you can, I mean, maybe we'll try to find that out too. But yeah, that's pretty much what I got.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ed. It's really awesome to have such a nationally innovative model right here in Montana. And I definitely echo that challenge to other people to see if they can beat Missoula County Public Schools 2 miles of local beef to their school. It's pretty impressive. So thank you. Next, we're going to shift perspectives and from the cafeteria to the farm and distribution truck. So I'm delighted to welcome Dave Prather from Western Montana Growers Co-op. Take it away, Dave.
Thanks, Aubrey, and thanks to Ginger and Ed. Those are two really inspiring projects there. So, as Aubrey mentioned, my name is Dave Prather. I'm with Western Montana Growers Cooperative. We're a farmer-owned co-op that provides market themselves produce a range of products, including fresh fruits and vegetables. The co-op to use the economy of scale so that we're able to serve customers in most of the major towns in Montana and into northern Idaho and eastern Washington. We've been operational since 2003 and have worked with some schools for almost that entire time. However, schools are still our smallest customer segment, as it's a difficult market for smaller producers to enter into. So I'm going to go over some of the challenges that we faced in selling to schools and demonstrate some of the around them and try to offer some tips for you all as you work with your local producers. The slides here are various photos kind of highlighting some of our work with farm to school, but they're not really in a particular order. The first challenge, and the one probably most often cited, is pricing. Aside from the fact that school food budgets are alarmingly low, the pricing challenge for our end that we're working with small and medium-sized farmers who simply aren't operating on the same scale as, say, California or Mexican growers are. Secondly, for our growers in particular, our focus is mostly on certified organic grown produce, which adds the cost of production. One way, the biggest area of success with Farm to School is utilizing the fresh fruit and vegetable snack program. Regular meal budgets, there tends to be a bit more flexibility per fruit and vegetable programs that haven't gone through the bidding process. Source number 2 grade product for schools. These are items that don't look perfect for a store shelf, but they're perfectly delicious to cut up and eat and cost about $2.50. Issue the limitations of many of the schools to process fresh produce into servable size. We have had a long-standing partnership with the Mission Mountain Food Enterprise Center in Ronan. For those that don't know, MMFEC, as it's known as, is an arm of Lake County Community Development Center in Ronan. The services.
So for our attendees, just hold tight. This is a great time to type in any questions you have into the chat box, and sorry about the sound issues.
So to continue, MMFEC, they also provide co-packing services and also have developed their own line of commercial products that are geared towards institutional sales. For co-packing, this means we can get an order from a school saying they need carrot coins or some other processed product for X amount of students, and then we can source carrots from growers using number 2 products if they're available, and then MMFEC can process the items to specification, and we can then get the products picked up and delivered out to the schools. The processing does, of course, add to the product's cost, but we've tried to minimize the impact on schools by simply passing that cost through rather than including it into the cost of the overall margin that we would normally charge. The biggest limitation on the co-packing is that MMFEC really needs to run about 600 pounds of product through at once to make it cost effective for them to pay their staff for the setup and cleanup required. So that means if we don't have enough orders in a given week, we are not able to get product processed, or the processing costs go up dramatically. But it does provide a great option for a pre-processed product. We've also worked with them to provide co-packing on frozen produce that we have available year-round. the best sellers that schools tend to use are cubed butternut squash, pie pumpkin puree, and pitted flathead cherries. And additionally, MMFEC has their own line of value-added products. As I mentioned, some examples of those are the frozen beef lentil crumble, beef mushroom meatballs, and a Montana tomato sauce, which includes squash and carrots for nutritional benefits. The next challenge for us is marketing and relationship building. This one has consistently been one of the most difficult to overcome. As a small business whose main mission is to support the farm businesses of our members, we have to focus our limited staff bandwidth to areas where we can make the biggest impact for our growers. And because of the many challenges with farm to school, we're often forced into spending more of our time with other customers rather than continuing to work as much on farm to school as we would like. Partially because of this and factors outside of our control, we've actually seen our total sales by dollar value to schools fall by about half from 2015. One of the parts of this challenge is that distributors like us and small producers aren't institutionalized, for lack of a better word, into most schools' procurement plans, which means we're often left to recreate the wheel whenever staff turnover occurs. And this can be really challenging when we lose food service directors or staff members that were especially motivated to bring in local food. We have to kind of start the conversation from scratch sometimes. Again, thankfully, there's a couple programs that really help us here, both Food Corps and Harvest of the Month. Aubrey and Ginger both spoke about Harvest of the Month, so I'll just say that from a producer standpoint, the simple exposure that this program provides for the many great products that are grown here in Montana, it's just so incredibly important. It makes it really apparent to everyone that here's some great options you can use for farm to school, here's how to use them, and we know that they're available during these times because we've done all the research, so we're really thankful for that program. And with Food Corps, I feel pretty strongly that we wouldn't really have a farm to school program at all if it wasn't for the work that's been done by Food Corps over the years. We all know that there's desire from both producers and school staff to make farm to school work, or else none of us would probably be here today. And Food Corps members can sometimes just provide that extra bit of spark and staff time to help make those connections between producers and schools. I mentioned about our total sales dropping off, but the really good side of that is that the total number of schools we've worked with in the last 5 years has increased threefold. So it provides a lot of promise for what's possible in the future. And for our part, we're hoping to revive our efforts on farm to school front this year and just create more staff time and make it available to do that work up front. I think many of the problems can be addressed by spending more time on individual schools to hear what their needs and challenges are. The last challenge I'll mention is just delivery logistics in our beautiful yet enormous state. Because of the rural location of many schools, it can be pretty difficult or impossible to get deliveries made to all of you. Our solution with many schools have been for us to get a delivery made to a grocery store or some other location as close to them as we can get, and then a food service director or staff member would make the drive to pick up. I realize that's not a long-term solution for anyone, but for Harvest of the Month orders or special events, it does at least provide an option for the more out-of-the-way places, and we're super thankful for everyone willing to go the extra mile when we're not able to. And then lastly, just to throw out a few little tips that or things that we would want schools to know when talking to producers. One is if you're not sure where to buy local fruit from, Aubrey covered that pretty thoroughly, but talking to restaurants and stores, figure out who they're purchasing from is a great way to start. And if they say they're not buying locally, you should ask them why. Two is be clear what your challenges and hesitations are at your own schools or organization. One of the biggest gripes I have with our customers is when they have a problem that they don't tell us about. I freely admit that we're very far from perfect and have lots of problems, but we can only address those that we know about. So this type of thing goes for new customer relationships as well. If either side goes into it with a can't do attitude, then anything as challenging as farm to school is going to fail. So the third thing is just be open about pricing. Again, we come back to that pretty often on our end, but if a producer's price seems too high, let them know what you're currently paying, or better yet, what you'd be willing to pay or able to pay for bringing in a local product. But overall, I think the most important thing here is to keep the conversations going. Don't take no for an answer, and then when you have issues you need to overcome, I think a lot of them can be worked out between various producers and schools. So, and be keeping an open mind for operating outside your normal flow is pretty helpful in this regard. So I think that's all I have. Sorry for the technology hiccups there.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you for being super fast about addressing the sound issue. It sounded okay at some points, but we didn't want it to get any worse. So wonderful. Thanks for sharing those tips and recommendations and your experiences. So again, for our attendees, if you have any questions of our presenters, enter them into the chat box and we'll address them at the end. So although creativity will get you really far, as you can see through these examples and other farm to school examples, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There are many quality farm to school resources available, as you saw in my first segment. I'll share a few more in this next section, but encourage you to check out the Montana Farm to School website for additional resources, as this is really just the tip of the iceberg. So the Montana Farm to School leadership team works through partnerships across the state to build farm to school initiatives that help kids eat healthy, connect kids with agriculture and nutrition through education, support Montana farmers and food producers, foster economic vitality, and strengthen communities. Our 6 working groups are now open to the public, so if you're interested in engaging in statewide level conversations, please contact me, and you can see those working groups listed on the left there. And as Dave said, bringing in additional staff or volunteers can be helpful. Food Corps service members are hosted by schools to implement farm to school and are provided training through the Food Corps program. You can also consider a VISTA intern, paid staff like a contractor, volunteers, or partnerships with local organizations. For those looking for extra help getting your farm to school initiative started or with expanding your current efforts, we have 2 coaches, as Ginger mentioned earlier. They're both Ginger and Faith. They're currently covering Northeast and Southeast Montana. And if you're interested in their help, please give them a shout or contact me. We're also excited to welcome Sarah Penix to the team as the Montana Farm to School Vista. She started in January and is focused on addressing and improving farm to school communications, training and resources, and partnerships. She's been moderating the questions for this webinar, so thank you, Sarah. This webinar is just the start of great events this year that will help you get inspired and armed with excellent resources. We have 2 additional Montana Farm to School Success webinars as part of the OPI Webinar Wednesday series, each featuring 3 different farm to school stories as we did today. So again, the next one is March 4th at 2 p.m. and that's focusing on the education core element. And then April 8th is focusing on the school gardens. We're also hosting 2 Montana Farm to School regional showcases. These one-day events will feature tours, training, and networking so you can experience farm to school programs in person and connect with others. The first will be held March 18th in Fairview, Montana, and the second will be held on May 6th in Hardin. More details and registration to come soon, so check our Facebook page. And we also hope you join us for the next statewide Montana Farm to School Summit on September 23rd and 24th in Helena, Montana. This conference is held every other year and moves locations, so don't miss out. Registration to open soon and scholarships will be available. If you want to see how farm to school is being implemented across the country, book your flight to Albuquerque for the National Farm to Cafeteria Conference in April. An early bird registration just opened. Did you know that you can win up to $500 for your school nutrition program? You can enter a photo of a Montana school meal in one of 3 categories shown here: local food, breakfast foods, or indigenous foods, for a chance to win one of 6 prizes. The deadline to enter your photos is February 28th, so get snapping those pics. Can't wait to see them. October is National Farm to School Month and is a perfect time to celebrate or launch your farm to school program. And it's never too early to start planning your Montana Crunch Time event, which is a fun way of celebrating National Farm to School Month. Remember to share your farm to school stories. You can share photos, lessons, stories, and recipes using the Share Your Story form on the Montana Farm to School and Montana Harvest the Month websites, or you can email me anytime. We would love to feature your story in an upcoming training or on the web. Use social media or local news media to get the word out, and be sure to use on social media posts hashtag MT Harvest of the Month or MT Farm to School so that we will see them. You can also tag the Montana Farm to School Facebook account or the Instagram account. So we hope you join that conversation, share the great things you're doing, because people love to read about it. So with that, I will now answer your questions for any of our presenters. And I'll give you a minute to type those into the webinar chat box. I have a question for each of our presenters, which is, what is one challenge that you faced in your farm to school work, and how did you overcome that? I know there are many different challenges that each of you mentioned, but if you want to highlight one challenge and how you overcame that. So let's first start with Ginger.
Farm to school challenge. Well, at first, I think the very first challenge I had was finding local beef. And I overcame that by just, going and stopping in at some different places in my area until I found Project Meats. They sell local beef there. And I was able to make a deal with them, and now we get all our beef locally. But at first that was a tough one because I wanted to do as much as I could to serve local. So that was one challenge I had and was able to overcome it.
Awesome. Let's go next to Edward.
All right. As you say, Aubrey, there are a ton of challenges that can potentially come up. One of our challenges is volume. We're a bigger district, and what we do at one school, we need to be able to do at the district level. So being able to accommodate that kind of volume can be challenging. There's also a ton of other kind of challenges, like we have a school farm right here at the central kitchen. I think you've toured it before, and we had 16 above ground beds. You might have heard that I'm a National Kale Day ambassador, and so kale is a big one of my favorite things to do is make kale chips. And so we grow a lot of kale, and we've grown a lot of zucchini, enough to shred zucchini for the whole school year, and to have that, like, not locally sourced, but doing it on our own from our gardens and stuff. And we have a great partnership with Garden City Harvest out here that we've had for many years. As it started with when I was a food corps site supervisor for 4 years, and we essentially created a job to kind of graduate out of food corps, but then have that position available, because my strength is in operations, not in growing food. So I needed that piece to help us get stuff from out of our garden into our production and stuff. But volume would probably be the biggest challenge. So finding an item like apples are really simple. There's a lot of producers of apples. We buy a tremendous quantity at a time. So if I can reach out to an orchard and say, hey, I'm looking to get not one case, not two cases, but maybe 25 cases, they can drop 25 cases at one time. You definitely see an advantage in pricing when you buy in bulk like that. So wherever we can find those kinds of things that just make sense and are really easy, we love to do that. And like I said, we have a couple of orchards down the Bitterroot who've really helped us out with that. But yeah, definitely, I think volume is one of the bigger ones.
Thank you. And Dave.
Yeah, for us, I guess I probably mentioned it already in the talk, but where to start was our biggest challenge with a lot of schools. We just trying to make the contact with the various purchasers, and that's where food corps was enormous, and just getting us off the ground, and lots of, especially smaller schools, where we could have meetings, go to conferences, etc., and create at least enough awareness where then the food corps staff could help direct us or direct food service directors, so we could meet up and begin a conversation. But yeah, just getting off the ground to begin with was hard enough.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Well, then, with that, I'll just thank our attendees for your time today in this webinar. And thank you so much to Ginger, Edward, and Dave for sharing your experiences and your wealth of knowledge. If you want more Farm to School stories and resources, I encourage you all to follow the Montana Farm to School Facebook and Instagram accounts. We have funding, events, and all kinds of information on there. Just as a reminder, these slides and the recorded webinar will be available on the Montana Farm to School website and in MAPS. And please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions following the webinar. So have a great day and thank you.